this. I would like to take the opportunity to welcome one and all to Level Up Your Marriage with Brother Paul and Sister Racquel Blake, which will commence in the next few minutes, right after this introduction. So please keep it locked to LBW Radio. There is love in this place. Whenever two or more of us gathered in His name, I found the world is all the same.
Hey, good evening, Brother Dexter. How are you doing? How are you doing?
Good evening.
Yes, God is good. God is good, brother. God is good. All right, welcome again, wherever you're joining from, whether you're in Zimbabwe or in the Caribbean or in Canada or in America. Welcome to Level Up Your Marriage, program where we discuss all things marriage and family. And tonight we have a very lively discussion ready for you. Continuing from our last discussion on cherishing your spouse. And we really want to continue this discussion tonight along that very same line. Yesterday, well, not yesterday, Wednesday was what was called the day of romance.
Love
But
week. Love week.
as Christians who are married, we want to celebrate love and marriage every day. We don't want to wait until just one day. We want to celebrate love and marriage every day. Last time we were on, we started a discussion on nurturing and cherishing your spouse. And, we substituted right throughout that presentation instead of nurturing, we said nourishing, which we found to be a very good word. So we want to continue that discussion this evening to go into some other areas and looking at how we can cherish and nurture our spouses, how we can build our relationships into healthy and productive and fruitful relationships that will honor and glorify the Almighty God. So get ready. We want to have your participation. We want to hear your views. We want to hear your different comments as we have the discussion this evening.
Yes, Paul. And our listeners, our viewers, we're very excited to be here again. I hope you had a good week. I hope you had a good Valentine's Day. And like we said, many persons celebrate this as a love week but in marriage and in family, every day should be the love day and a love week. And so this evening we want to continue our discussion or conversation about ways that we can cherish and nourish our spouse. And it begins with the element that we have to focus on one another. We can't do marriage alone. And so as we are having the discussion about cherishing and nourishing our spouse, we have to focus on the other person. What do you think, Paul?
Yes, that is true. In marriage is never a one-sided relationship. Marriage is about two persons, and both parties deserve to be cherished. Both parties deserve to be nurtured. Both parties deserve to be nourished, so that they can be their best self in the relationship. And so it is, it's very, very important for us to have these kind of discussions and to, impart some useful tidbits for persons to use in their relationship so that they can really not just simply endure the relationship, but rather to enjoy the relationship. Because I honestly believe that God has so constructed marriage that, well, when He created Adam, and He said it was not good for Adam to be alone. And when Eve was created from his side, from a rib from his side, when Adam looked at Eve, he said, woman, and,
Wow,
and,
wow.
and that indicates that he was pleased at what God created for him, or who God created for him. And so we want to look at how we can, continue to nurture, continue to allow that relationship to flourish. And so we want to look at some things this evening as we go along. Um, we want to start at asking a very pertinent question: how do we keep the romance alive? And brother Dexter, you were married. You say you're married for 12 years now. 12 years.
Yes. Mhm.
And so, yes, that question is important. 12 years. Yeah, how do we keep the romance alive? Because a part of cherishing your spouse, a part of nurturing your relationship involves keeping the romance alive. When we were dating, or when we start out dating each other, the romance tends to be a lot on fire. And as we settle into the relationship, and as we enter the state of marriage, we find that a lot of couples, the romance kind of dwindles a bit. And if they're not careful, the romance. And so we want to begin at this point this evening in looking at the importance of keeping the romance alive. Don't let the romance fade with time. Um, One of the things that I would have that I want to say is that romance is not something that just happens. Romance is something that you have to plan for. Just as how we plan for everything in our everyday lives. We plan to go to the supermarket, we plan to go to the doctor, we plan to improve the house, we plan to buy a new car. We are always planning to do different things, but the sad truth is that for the most part, when it comes to our relationships, and even when it comes to romance, a lot of planning is not necessarily involved in that area. And I want to say that in order for us to keep romance alive, romance also has to be a planned event. Right? It has to be something that you plan for. It just doesn't happen out of thin air.
You are very right, and so I would add that part of the planning involves being intentional and deliberate. You
Yeah.
know, we have to prioritize. We prioritize our time and we prioritize our activities. So it's important that as couples, as married people, we have to prioritize our romance and whatever we can do, whatever we need to plan, so we can cherish and nourish each other. It requires a plan as well and
Mhm.
deliberate effort so that we can keep the marriage active and alive and not just to survive, not
Connection. It appears that Brother Paul and Sister Raquel got disconnected for a brief moment. We do encourage you to stay tuned until they are reconnected. I
Okay,
really appreciate the
we are back.
subject
We
tonight,
are back.
and they are back. They are back.
Yes, we are back. There was a little break in transmission. Modern technology will fail sometimes, but I want to start, Raquel, by asking the question, because I want to discuss this from the two different perspectives. because one of the things that we often do is that we make certain assumptions where romance is concerned, and a lot of the assumptions have to do with sometimes we tend to be want to be mind readers where it comes to romance, rather than asking what is it that you want from romance and what is it that I want from romance. I think that is it's a very important question to ask when we think of keeping the romance alive. You know, what is it that spells romance for you?
Hmm. Indeed, because what spells romance for the wife can be quite different from what spells romance for the husband. We talk about that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. And on previous episodes, we talk about that, men see through blue lenses
And
and
women
women
through
see
pink.
pink. So it's important to have that conversation to in prioritizing romance and in scheduling it. The conversation becomes necessary. Some playfulness, some
Mhm.
fun and excitement that and we said earlier in our previous about importance of communicating, talking and listening, because by listening to what interests your spouse, by listening to what gets your spouse excited, you get clues and insight into how you can plan for that
Mhm.
to maintain that romance.
Yeah, I was listening to a program this evening of with a married couple, and the question was asked, what is it that keeps your relationship alive? And interestingly, the gentleman responded that we still like each other. And I found that interesting, because and just the way he said it, he said, we still like each other. And I think that, when we talk about keeping the romance alive, a big part of keeping the romance alive is that we have to keep liking each other.
Yeah.
And notice I didn't say love, because we know that we love each other, but there are many persons who love each other, but they don't necessarily like each other. And so, he kept mentioning about that, the fact that they had a real friendship, they had a genuine friendship. They
Mhm.
were able to laugh together, they were able to play
Play together.
together, they were able to have light moments together. As a matter of fact, one of the things that they said is that throughout the day they have more light moments than they have heavy conversations. And that couple, they are married now for about 12 or so years. Not your brother, not your brother Dexter. They're married now for about 12 or so, so years going. And I really found that part of the conversation very interesting when he said that we still like each other. We still like being in each other's company. We like being around each other. We like playing with each other. We like just having light moments with each other. And I honestly think that sometimes in the hustle and bustle of life, we kind of lose that spark in our relationships, where we allow life to get in the way. I like to use that statement, that phrase, that allowing life to get in the way, because the truth is, life life happens, and life will happen as we go on, from day to day. But how much of the stuff do we allow to get in the way of us living out how God expects us to live in our relationships? We'll always have the financial problems. All have the problems with the children. We have problems at work. We have issues all about. But as Racquel said, we have to make a very deliberate attempt to be involved in each other's lives, right? To make sure that we don't lose that spark, because it is so easy to lose that spark of friendship in our relationships.
Definitely, definitely. I think also the element of affection, showing affection, just giving a rub on the forehead, or just bouncing. You're sitting there watching TV, just giving them a bounce, or
Yeah,
come on, playful, being
playfulness,
playful.
Yeah.
And the research has shown that being affectionate is such a powerful element in your marriage.
Mm-hmm. True.
It's a powerful element, and it makes a difference for this for the husbands who are prepared for, for a great evening. It makes a difference in the daytime that you start with affection way before the evening, when
Yes.
you want when they require additional affection, right? On another level.
Whatever you want to call it. But I also want to interrupt and also say that let us put it all on also on the table that women also enjoy that part of the relationship. You know, we often skirt around it and behave as if it's only men who enjoy sex in a relationship. Women also enjoy sex and look forward to it. And if all of the variables are laid on the table when in terms of preparation, then it becomes an enjoyable experience for both. And so, I just want to make that very, very, very clear that it is a shared experience, right, brother Dexter?
Oh yes, oh
Yes, it
yes,
is.
oh
It is
yes,
a shared experience.
and I would just like to say, support Sister Raquel and the statement that she made. It has to be a deliberate effort. I want to encourage all who are married and those who are aspiring to get married. The things that you did prior to being married, you have to keep those things alive, keep them going. For example, I still send my wife flowers, and whenever she passes by in the house, I express my love and my liking for her in so many different ways.
Yes,
Whenever she
yes.
Let me tell you, brother, this is for married people, right? So we are supposed we, we are supposed to be speaking to a mature audience, and I love
Yes,
all my wife body parts, and whenever she passes by,
Yes.
and I vision and that the apple, gets into my vision. For some reason, my hand just can't stay to myself. I will give it a little tap. And what I realized is that she would say, "Baby, why you always touching me? Why you always hitting me on my buttocks?" So I decided one time I'm gonna stop, and then she would pass by and she would look at me. Why didn't you touch it? So these are just some simple and little things that can be employed to keep that romance alive and keep that
yes,
relationship going. So I do appreciate the fact that it has to be a deliberate effort.
Yes. You know, let us dive a little bit deeper into this conversation and look at some of the practical things that we can do. And the truth is, much of what I'm going to say is not anything new. I'm not going to bring anything new on the table that we have not heard about before. What what happens is that a lot of times we don't put these things in. I'm going back to a statement I made before that we often allow the hustle and bustle of life to take us away from the things that we ought to enjoy. The things that we used to do when we were dating, we allow life to get in the way of those things. And the truth is, these are the things that keep the relationship going. And so we want to look at let's start looking at some practical things that you probably would have done before that you probably have stopped doing that you need to get back to doing. And the first one is regular date nights. Setting aside time dedicated just for the two of you. And especially if you have children, right? Whether you have only one child or you have multiple children, sometimes we have to get to that place where we make a deliberate effort and understand that even though we have a family and we have children, the welfare of the children is not the all in all of our relationship, right? We have to make that time, set aside that time where both parties can come together, where minds can meet. It means that And I think we had mentioned this in one of our previous sessions, that it is important to have a network. Every married couple should have a network,
Yes.
right? A network that they can trust, a network they can depend on, a network that they will always be there for them. And that network is important, because when the date nights and stuff comes in, you don't want to have children around the house all the time. And sometimes you are going out and you need to leave the children somewhere, right? If we follow the hustle and bustle of life, things like date nights forth becomes I mean a once a year or twice a year event. And the truth is, as persons who are involved in counseling and being married for a long time, having these interactions, these date nights, is of utmost importance to the survival of the relationship.
Definitely. And we talk about having a network of friends to help, but also it's important to have a network of friends who we can hang out with too. We can
Yes,
have
also who you can hang out with. True.
exactly.
Very true.
So on the one hand, we need the friends to help, to help to keep the children and so on. And the value of having these date nights also sends a positive message to the children.
True.
You're sending a message to them that your marriage is important. It's important to spend quality time with each other, and it's also showing them how they the benefits and how they can plan to live their own life too. Positive message. We talk about leaving a legacy for our children.
Yeah, true.
And I'm very big on that. And so it not only helps the marriage and the relationship, but it also helps the entire family.
True. And I want to also add on that the the date or the date night doesn't have to be measured in dollars and cents, because many times we make the assumption that in order for us to go on a date you must have a lot of money, and that is not true. Having a date night is simply a matter of being creative. You can have a date in so many different ways, and which doesn't have to cost you. But and as well as you can have a date where you can go out on an expensive date if you want, and that's a choice that persons have. But don't always narrow down having a date night to having to spend exorbitant sums of money. Having a date night is about being creative. It is about something that both of you enjoy, that you agree on to do. And it can be just about anything. It can be sitting outside on the veranda looking at the stars. It can be having a walk around the community. It can be just about anything. It can be but it has it's about being creative. It can, if you want to save up some money, if you want to, and if you decide that you're going to have an expensive dinner somewhere, fine. It's about being creative.
And it also involves some surprises too.
Yes, it does.
you know, Today I was at a function at the hotel where we got married. 16 years ago, and it brought back memories. And of course, memories must also the thought that we could plan something to go back to that hotel and possibly the same room where we stayed on when we got married.
So, you remember the number room?
No, not at this point, but I guess they might be able to check the record. But just anything that's gonna keep the memory alive, anything that's gonna bring a laughter to your face, and the element of surprise, the element of I'm thinking about you, and I want to add value to your life.
So I said the important thing is to prioritize quality time, and that's important. Prioritizing quality time must be something that is high on our list of priorities. So regular date nights is one. Another one is shared hobbies. You know, as I get into counseling persons in terms of marriage and preparing persons for marriage, I am finding that persons don't take time to talk about the things that they like, the things that they share together. Is sharing something special with someone, just about anything. Gardening for one. Raquel doesn't like gardening. I
Who
want.
said that?
I have the green thumb.
Yes.
Right?
I'll water the
But
plants,
but
but he garden.
Raquel will water the plants. So I will plant them. Raquel will water them. And that's a shared interest. That is a shared hobby. Cooking together is another one. Sometimes we make the assumption, where wives are concerned, that wives must always be in the kitchen looking after food. That those days have gone through the door. It is also a truth. Mhm. Go ahead, brother Dexter.
Oh, yes. Before you jump to that that other area, I have a question, and that question is
Hmm.
probably for couples who probably fall into the same category that my wife and I found ourselves in. In
Hmm.
that we had children at a very early stage in our marriage, and we have been traveling for quite a few years. We spent a few years on the island of Nevis. We returned to Dominica for a short time, and currently we are on the island of Bonaire. Now, we found
Hmm.
ourselves in situations where we do not have a lot of acquaintances and friends that we could leave our children with. I would really
Hmm.
like to know what would you recommend. We have employed quite a few things that I will eventually share, but I would like to know what would you recommend, for a couple like my wife and I, who found ourselves in such a situation where we live on an island where we don't know many people. We are just here for a few months, and spending having a date night can become a little bit challenging, seeing that we have
Hmm.
three children.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, and as you rightly said, that can be a bit challenging. For real. In Again, the network is also important, because if I look at even your context, um, being somebody who works within the church, I think that's a network that is open to you, because it's very difficult for you to create a network outside of the church. And so wherever you go, whatever island you end up in, I think one of the things that you have to deliberately do is to create a network as soon as you arrive there. And one of the things I find, brother Dexter, especially for persons in our age group, where and having children, this is where the older persons in the congregation come into play, because they tend, I, I just love being around persons who are older than I am, who have certain experiences. And one of the things I find out is that they love children for the most part. They love the idea of having young children and young people around them. And it's a good way to foster that kind of relationship with them, where we can live, and yeah, it's not leaving the children with them for an entire day. It's just a few hours, because to go out on a date, you don't have to spend an entire day on a date. It can be just for a few hours, or even an hour, or a half hour if you have it, because a date can also be done in half hour, can and be very meaningful.
Yeah.
All right. So, to address your concern, all I can think of at this point is a network. And if you have a system where, um, if you're in the States, employing a babysitter would be an option that you could look at. I don't know if you have that where you are, but possibly you have to look at also even a babysitter service where somebody can come in, for an hour or two, and you pay them and go out with your wife. Um, all I can say is you have to be very creative.
I like to add that a date night doesn't have to take place in the night.
Well,
So
I did have to take place in the night.
no,
True,
so
yes.
let's say the children are at school. You know that they're in a safe
Yes,
environment
very
at
true,
school.
very
Then
true.
you can plan your outing, your quality time in the daytime when they're at school. You can probably plan some time when they're going to bed.
Hmm.
And like Paul said, you can develop that network. So this month A couple or some friends might keep your children for you, and next month you might keep their children so that
True.
they
Yeah.
can go on a date night too. So the idea is that the day night doesn't have to take place in the night. It can be when the children are at school, or it could be when they're gone to bed. It can begin at 11 p.m.
Yeah. While they're sleeping
while they're
outside
sleeping,
under the stars.
or you can do it right there
Have a candlelight dinner under
in
the
the comfort,
stars
yeah, in
outside.
the comfort of your home. But you are now using this dedicated time when they are probably resting and sleeping to light your candle and take out your non-alcoholic wine. Probably watch a movie together, depending on what you have planned. But the idea is that there's always, if we're intentional and deliberate about it, we can find a way. You know, uh, when you respond, Brother Dexter, I'm going to put a little spokes in the conversation after you respond.
I,
What
I,
are
I
your
like
thoughts on those suggestions?
I like that and I appreciate that because this is some of the things that we have employed. We have taken the opportunity when the children are at school to do something together,
Yes.
and more so
Yes.
when they go to sleep. When they go to sleep,
Yes.
we spend that time together. We watch a movie together. We talk. Sometimes we just go outside and just spend that
Yes.
little time with each other. So one may find themselves in some difficult situations, but there is always a way out. There are always things that can be done to keep that spark, to keep that flame,
Yeah.
keep that flame going. So I do appreciate that so much.
Yes, true. Yes. Before Raquel says comes in, one I think that just came to me a while ago is that if we keep saying that we don't have time to do stuff, we will never have time to do it because time is always marching on, right? And so what we have to do is to be very, very deliberate because we have to make time. We can't wait until time is available for us. We just have to make the time. And as you rightly said, when the children are at school, when they're asleep, there are just so many creative ways that we can use to get in that time to date our spouses.
Uh, yes. The spokes I want to put in is, I guess, Paul probably is reading my mind in the sense that we talk about it, but couples talk about it, but sometimes they don't do anything about it, you know. And so the importance of making an effort.
Whoa. We do apologize. It appears that Brother Paul and Sister Raquel got disconnected for a brief moment again. We have Brother Andy Charles with us, and if you listened, the discussion is very interesting, talking about spending quality time, having that date night, and I just shared some of my experiences and some of the things that I have implemented, and they also suggested a few things that can be done. The most important thing that we need to take out of this is that the effort needs to be made. One should not say that there is insufficient time or we don't have to have time. One has to be willing to make the time, to spend with your spouse, so that you can keep that love, keep that fire burning within the relationship. Brother Andy.
Okay, good. Welcome and thank you for having me on at this time. I was listening to the discussions before. They were unceremoniously cut off. The technology seems to always be sort of giving some problems. So they are back. They are back. Okay, great. But if I were to take up from where you left off, um, in the previous episode, I did speak about the importance of having a specific plan that is geared towards making time for a husband and wife to come together and to spend quality time and to find a way to plan it in advance.
Mhm.
And we also decided that we will not look at only special occasions, like birth dates. We recently had Valentine's and anniversaries and so on. No, 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 no. We spoke about the idea of being spontaneous and just taking that opportunity to, out of the blue, to find something, to bring something, to buy something, to do something that you know your spouse likes or appreciates, and just do it because you're
Mm-hmm.
grateful
True.
and thankful for that individual being your spouse. And so the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea is that time must be something that you must be deliberate and intentional about. Do not wait for something to happen, then to decide that you're going to make use of the occasion. Create the
Mm-hmm.
occasion for yourself. Put value to the time that you have. You have 24 hours in a day. Find two, one, three, however you want to do it, hours somehow within that time frame, within that period of time. If it's just once per week, that would be good enough because at least you are saying to your spouse, I appreciate you. I place
Yes, that's
value on you being in my life. You are a priority. You are on my mind. I am thinking about you. And so the little things will add up over a consistent period of time. Like I said
yes,
before, do not wait until the special occasion rises. Make
yes,
special occasions out of regular occasions for
yeah,
yourself. You make it
yes,
special, man. Just do something out of the
yeah,
blue.
that's right.
Light a candle ever so often. You know, tell her tell her one evening, hey, put your feet up, relax. Bring out the foot spa, do a little massaging. You understand what I'm saying? And then tell
Yes.
her, look, you may not be able to cook, but order something unusual that you
Mm-hmm.
haven't eaten in a long time. But you have to be creative
Yes.
and find the opportunity to use that specific time that you plan, that you are sure about, that you are intentional about, and just show gratitude and thankfulness for your partner by letting them know, hey, you are a priority in my life, and I will always take time out to let you know I'm thinking about you. It
Yes.
matters. Yeah.
Yes. I want to say also that um and I think brother Andy alluded to it, romance is a 24-hour activity. And sometimes one of the things that I will do for Raquel is I mean I search the internet and for crazy videos, and there are just some videos out there that I will send to her at work, and I just know that she's at work, and I send her a very crazy video of something, and I will just sit down at my desk in my office and just know that when Raquel sees this, she's going to have a laugh. and it's stuff like that just keeps you going. You just know that you know this person so well that you can find a little video, you can find a little thought or something and send to them. And you might not even know what kind of day your spouse is having. Your spouse might be just having a very bad moment, a very bad part of the day. And just that little, thing that you do will set off a spark that turns into a fire. So it is an ongoing activity. It is just finding those moments, finding those creative things that you can do. Um, sometimes even something like picking up your spouse from work and giving them a cupcake. just a cupcake. Nothing big. It's just a cupcake.
Yes.
But it means something, right?
It means that I was thinking about
It
you.
means that I was thinking about you,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
A lot of times, what spoils the romance in our relationships many times is that we tend to just look at life just from the big picture and not look at the small stuff that happens in between. And so we look for the birthday events, we look for the Valentine's Day events and the anniversary events. Those are the days we look forward to spend, that big. But romance happens in between all of that. It happens on a 24-hour basis. And We just need to seize those, because the truth is, and this is something that we need to say to the audience. We will only do this once,
Hmm.
and opportunities that we lose hardly ever come back. So when
Yeah.
you get the chance to do something, do it.
Yeah.
And another interesting point I can make from that is that when we do these little things, imagine the memories that we store up for later on.
Definitely.
Right.
When you can just sit on the veranda, brother Andy and brother Dexter, with your spouses, and you just remember all of the good times that you have spent. But the truth is, if you have not been deliberate in creating those memories, there will be no memories to look back on.
Mm. Well
You're
said.
building up your love bank.
Well
Build up that
said.
bank.
Yeah.
Brother
Absolutely.
Andy, you answer the question. While we had a temporary glitch, you answered the question for me because all the points you shared were answers to the spokes that I was going to put in the wheel, but you prevented me from putting in the spokes. But the point I wanted to make, or the question I wanted to infuse, is that many times couples, they talk, sometimes they plan, but they don't follow through. And you gave very good tips or techniques, ideas about how to follow through, just in a day, in a week,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
in that 5 minutes of thinking that, okay, buy
Yeah.
something, bring something, do something, just to tell your wife that your spouse, that you're thinking about them, that you love them, and that you appreciate you. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to always be, as I said, a big occasion. Make the occasion special, even when it's just a normal routine of life.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
know, play is important in romance. Play. That small four-letter word, play. And I find that as couples, as we get older, we play less when we should be playing more.
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it is playing that keeps us alive and keeps us young, keeps us looking handsome and keep us looking beautiful. It is play that helps us to appreciate our spouses more, and that is the thing that we do less of as we get older.
You know,
Playing is important.
look at
Yeah.
how handsome he is. We love to play. We love to play.
Oh my
When
goodness.
I'm in the house, going on with my crazy stuff, my son will come out and say to Racquel, come and take your crazy husband. come and look at your crazy husband. Because the truth is, life is just too difficult not to play and have good times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, this is the person that you have committed to spend your entire life with. This is a person that you love and cherish. Then how can you not also love to play with that person?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I want to just interject something based on what Brother Paul spoke about with regards to the memories. One thing that I and my wife have done is we have tried to capture those memories that you refer to either on video or in pictures. And I'll tell you why,
Hmm.
because there are times when you need to sit down and go back down memory lane and
Yes, that's true. That's true.
refreshing some moments that you would have gone through before and remind
Yeah.
yourselves, remember when we had this situation, how we dealt with it? Remember when we had this challenge, how we dealt with it? Remember when we prayed for a certain thing to happen and we had to go through some rough stuff, but eventually on the other side, we came out because God's grace was there for us? And so, what I do sometimes and what she does is you would captivate those moments together, put them in a little video, and like Brother Paul said, just send that video out just to remind them that the foundation upon which our marriage is built, our relationship is built, is something that we should always take mindful remembrance of. Don't
Hmm.
forget it. Don't forget the times when we probably didn't have enough to eat. Don't forget the times when we didn't have capacity to go to church or something. And the reason why that is important is because it gives us a certain amount of strength and consolidation to realize, wait a
That's
minute,
right. True.
we went through that. Yes, we did. We came out on the other side. Yes, we did. God was there
Yes.
for us. Yes, He was. Why? Because we remained, and we stayed faithful and committed, even though there was a challenge. So when we go back in time and we bring back those moments, or we play those videos, or we look at those pictures, it reminds us of how much we have been through and how great the foundation of the marriage is, and
That's
realize
right.
we still have more to build upon, but at least we are not there anymore. Look how far we have come.
Yes.
It makes a
Yeah.
whole lot of difference, a whole lot of
Yes, it
difference.
does. It does. It does. You know, as you said that, brother Andy. I have a particular memory of my son Timothy when, well, after Timothy was born, and we have our wedding video. I mean, for the first 2, 3, or 4 years of Timothy's life, Timothy watched our wedding video. I mean, almost every week. He would just sit and watch that wedding video over and over and over again. And it's just know that it has dawned on me that it actually meant something very special for him.
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that I also want to look at is that even us preserving memories for ourselves also has an impact on other persons around us.
Yeah.
So it's not just about us. It's
Right.
even about our communities.
Hmm.
When persons see us enjoying our relationship, seeing us romancing each other, seeing us playing with each other, seeing us laughing with each other, it's also an example for them that there is hope in relationships, because that is one of the things that is killing the whole institution of marriage, where a lot of persons are choosing not to get married because they think that marriage is just this institution that brings a lot of misery.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is not true. That is so far from the truth. There are
Right.
still there are still some awesome marriages, awesome couples around. And even to this kind of program to facilitate this kind of decision is reminding persons that marriage is still God's institution that He glorifies.
Yes. Amen to that. So very,
Right.
very, very true. The thing about it is that we have, and I hate using the term evolve, but basically, what we have to realize is that from giving the examples, we show that we have the capacity to evolve from one level to the next. And what you say is very instructional and is quite correct, because sometimes there are people who are going to be looking at us and thinking, I wonder how they did it. I wonder how they made it. I wonder how they have reached this far. And you may not have been long in marriage. It could be about 7 years, 8 years, 9 years, as compared to a couple who would have been in marriage for about 25, 30 years. Recently, a couple that I know celebrated 45 years of marriage. And I'm thinking, wow,
Yeah.
45, 45 years. I mean, that's an extremely long time. And so the thing is, it makes me feel like if I could sit with these people, Brother Paul and Sister Raquel and Brother Dexter, and just listen to some of the things that they have to say. Because 45 years tells me that
Yes,
they
that's
have been
true.
through
That's true.
so much. And so what we have to understand
Yes.
as well is that we must also seek out these people, because the thing
Yes.
about
Yes.
it is that they would have found something that would have worked. They would have found something that they would have realized over the years that they could become better at or improve as they went along. How did you do it? And I would be asking that question over and over and over again, because I really want to know. And so the question that I really want to pose to our people is, how much value do you actually put on your marriage relationship, so that you just don't sit down and say, oh my goodness, this is not working. How do we deal with this problem? How do we? No. There are so many different
Hmm.
avenues and resources available that you could get advice. that you could get information, that you could get the experience of people who have been through things and can be there for you. But if we don't seek it, if we don't reach out, if we don't ask the questions, how are we going to know? And that happens when we say to ourselves, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
This
True.
marriage is extremely important to me. And no, I will do whatever I need to do that is necessary to find the information to help me and my spouse keep it going because that is the will of God for our lives.
Yes. There was a one of our preachers who he's deceased now. He was married for, yeah, brother and sister Walker, for 50, over 50 years. They were married, and there was just one thing that always impressed me about brother Walker. He treated his wife with tenderness. Every time he spoke about her, he referred to her as his girlfriend, and she referred to him as her boyfriend. And when they came to church on a Sunday morning, he would never come out of that car unless he opened the door for her to come out. When
Right.
he comes into the church building, I mean, he she was much stronger than he was. But when he
Mm,
came into the church building, he was always going to stand by her chair, and
yeah.
he's going to pull her chair for her and
Yeah.
wait until she sits down. And when he sits beside her, he's always touching her hands and having her hands inside his own, and always he was just always playing with her. And
Wow.
when,
Awesome.
when I look at that, I mean, it was just such a wonderful example of,
Yeah.
of, of a relationship, and
Yeah.
it goes back to what we said in the beginning, that this has to be deliberate action, because one of the things that I always looked at with brother Walker is that in his later years, he was not, in terms of his memory, he was not, very strong in his own memory. But one thing, he never forgot to love his wife. Even when his memory was fading, he never at any point in time forgot to love his wife. Two things he didn't forget. He never forgot that he was supposed to evangelize, because when he was in the hospital, he was evangelizing, and he never forgot to love his wife. And that for me was just impressive. And it takes deliberate effort.
Yep. Yep. That's right. That's right. I see a comment here, and I'm trying to figure out if the person is saying charisma one
Yeah,
on
I think it's
one.
charisma.
Charisma is
Charisma,
missing. You
yes.
all need to talk about it.
Charisma.
I
Yeah.
think that person has to explain a little bit more what they mean by
Yeah. What they
charisma.
mean. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I'd like to get a little bit more
Yes.
on what you mean, because um the truth is, charisma comes naturally to some persons, comes naturally for some, not necessarily charisma for in terms of natural charisma for others. Because let me use an example. I am by nature a person with a very bubbly personality, and so I can walk into a room and I become the life of the party. But there's somebody else who is not necessarily doesn't necessarily have the kind of personality that I have. But that person can be just as romantic as I can be, because it is the deliberate effort, right? It is what you put into it. It might that person may require a little bit more work in getting there than what that I would do, but it is something that can be learned. It's not something that I don't think that there's anybody that was born naturally romantic. Being romantic is something that you have to learn it with experience. I would even dare say that sometimes you have to learn through failure. Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. True.
Sometimes
True.
you might try something and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you might bring your wife a gift that you thought that she would go head over heels with, and she doesn't move. It doesn't move her. It means
Yeah.
that it means that you have to try. You have to try again.
That's
So
right.
it's
That's
not.
right.
But we talk about romantic. So you see, what is romantic for me and for Paul might be different for
Might be different.
brother Andy
Yes,
and his
true.
wife,
Might
or
be
brother
different.
Dexter
Yeah,
and his wife.
true.
So we have
True.
to remember that it's unique. It's unique to the marriage. It's unique to the spouses, and also it's important that we stay in tune because Paul might take some Chinese dinner home for me, and I don't like Chinese. He could take home a large bucket of ice cream for me, and then definitely I'd be happy. So it's so it's definitely the charisma and the romance is going to be different and unique to
Yes.
each person or to each couple. So
Right.
the element of paying attention, listening,
Yes.
understanding what communicates love to your spouse, what communicates that I'm interested, I'm
Yes.
deliberate. So it's definitely unique to each couple.
Yes.
But the element or point that we want to definitely bring across this evening is that they must make a deliberate effort, must be intentional, and don't wait for the big moments.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the birthdays and the Valentine's Day, as brother Andy says it, and I don't think anybody can say it like brother Andy says it. Use the ordinary moments and make them special. You make them extraordinary. That's what
Yes.
something like that you said, brother Andy.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Correct. You got to be innovative,
you,
man.
you know what? Yes. Very true. Very true. One of the points, just to support what Raquel said too, is that romance is about continually learning. Because the truth is, as we and to use your term, brother Andy, as we evolve, our likes change. The things that we like 10 years ago, might not be necessarily the same things that we like today, right? We know that as we get older, our physical activity also, diminishes,
Hmm.
depending on our health and all of that. And it means that we have to be in a frame of mind where we are continually learning about our spouses, right? Possibly being romantic 10 years ago might have been bungee jumping. You might develop a problem now, and
Yes.
you can't bungee jump any longer. You have to find
Right.
something else to do. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, we need to have that in mind, that romance is about continuous learning, learning about each other, even learning about ourselves,
Yeah.
because we change over time.
Right. Sometimes for couples, it's challenging to create the opportunities for them to pay attention to details. And
True.
the reason why I mention that is because sometimes you don't realize that it's just the little things that matter the most. And we're thinking that we
Yes.
probably have to throw a party, or we have to make the occasion something that is larger than normal. And all the other party is saying is just a small thing that you do is
Just
gonna
yes,
keep
just a small
is
thing.
is just gonna keep fanning that flame. You know, wash the wares all of a sudden. If even though if you don't like to wash wares, it's not what you like or
Yes.
don't like. It's what you can do that would create some level of curiosity in your partner. I wonder why he
Yes.
washing the wares, boy. I wonder why she washing. Because what you have to do, remember, you looking to spice up the thing, right? So you have to create
Yes.
avenues where curiosity of the individual is gonna be an itchy situation. They're gonna be bothered a little bit by something that you're doing that you're not accustomed doing. They know you don't like doing it. It is not something that you would revert to, but do it. Do it because you want to create a new avenue now for a higher level of response as far as the connection between you and your spouse is concerned. And so sometimes we need to understand it's just the simple things that makes the difference. Yes, there will be the times when we'll have to rise to the occasion. It may require something bigger than that, but those will come. But what about when you are hustling? You have to take the kids to school. You got to get to work. She has to get to work. And suddenly you decide, you know what? In the midst of it all, I'm going to make her this special cup of tea. Now, I like to keep it real. You
Yes.
make that cup of tea and you say, honey, slow down. You need to drink this
Mm-hmm.
cup of tea. Tell me if that is not going to make a difference. Tell me if that is not going to make an impact. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, we must try to understand the importance of the small things. You know, a brother of mine went to a
Yes.
function, and let me just share this quickly. He met a couple who had been together for about 30 years. And when he looked at them, he could not tell that they had been together for 30 years. He thought that they had just found each other and courting. And they said, no, we have been married for 30 years. And he said, well, how come you all look like a newly found couple who just caught in and you know finding out about each other? And they said to him, we have to keep every moment of our connection curious. Wow. It was so simple, but it
Mm-hmm.
is so
Mm-hmm.
effective. They're always willing to know more about each other. And that keeps it interesting, that keeps it curious. And they said to him, in addition to that, we do not make a mountain out of a molehill. We don't sweat the small stuff. We don't make a big deal out of things that can be easily handled by simply having a conversation about it rather than an argument. So there's, I mean, if you put that all together, you'd realize, wait a minute, if I had up a different kind of mindset and a different kind of approach with regards to my attitude towards my spouse, maybe, just maybe, we could start fanning the flames again and keep that connection going. We seem to be having another connection issue, brother Dexter. We have lost Paul and Raquel again. Your mic is muted. Yes, 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 I can hear you now. Right, right. I'm seeing Marie Murray Aicha, very practical and informative program, viewing from New York City. Wow. Welcome, New York City, the Big Apple in the house. We appreciate your comment and we hope that you would continue to support the program and let others know about the program as well, because we are geared towards building a community that would help everyone that is struggling or having challenges just to level up your marriage, just take it to the next level. That is so very important. And sometimes what we don't do is we don't even think about some of the things that we see in the scripture about the valiant effort of some of the men in the scriptures. And I mean men like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, those three, of course, Joseph, David. When you think about the character of these guys and you realize how much they would have done to ensure that their families were protected, that their families were taken care of, you realize that just to be in a marriage, that challenge sometimes demands a greater level of character and personality from you, the individual. And I want to particularly address this to the men for us to understand the importance of the role that we play. We are not just the provider of the family's basic needs, we are the protector, provider, protector. We have got to be priests and king at the same time, not to be served, but to serve in the best interests of the protection and the spiritual advantage that our families are supposed to have. Of course, remembering that our spouse, our spouses, our wives are our partners in the process, and they have an equal opportunity to participate in the things that we would do to enhance our ability to work against the threats of the enemy. Because in the end, what we must recognize is that even though there may be human things that we have to deal with, we are always in a constant spiritual battle. Satan hates marriages. He hates it when we find the thing that works to keep the marriage going, because if the marriage keeps going, then the family could grow and develop, and it could produce more as a result because the fruit is there and it's solid. It's built on a good foundation. And so I believe that is why it is important to understand the characteristics of these men from the Old Testament, the kind of things that they were willing to do to provide and protect their families. It is extremely important. We too have to kind of mirror that mindset and understand how much our families, particularly our spouses, depend upon us, particularly as men, to be the hero, to be the front runner, to be the one that would take up the responsibility and understand that, yes, while I'm the head of the home, as Christ has instituted, at the same time, it is my responsibility to realize how important it is to work with my family as a team so that we are all on the same page at the same time, heading in the same direction with the same mindset. And therefore, as a unit, everyone in the family can now benefit more, because united we can continue to grow together in Christ. Because at the end of the day, if we don't address all the challenges holistically, it may have an imbalance and one will affect the other. You know, studies have shown that most of us humans walk around with about 60 to 80% of our thoughts being negative. I think I would have mentioned this to Brother Dexter. And it's amazing that we spend so much time on negative thoughts, either present or those that we did not resolve from the past. But if we could change that, imagine we could turn that around and make it the opposite. How dynamic our relationships are going to be. So we have to find different ways how we can insulate our families and our loved ones, particularly our spouses, so that they can feel that protection, they can feel that love, they can feel that caring, that tenderness, and know, hey, my husband, my man of God is going to do anything and everything he can that is morally and spiritually right to ensure that this family stays together, and I am truly the apple of his eye.
We see Brother Paul and Sister Blake, they're back with us. Yes, I was just acknowledging that you guys are back, and I could hear a little feedback as well. But before you speak, I'd just like to highlight a comment made by Giselle Honore, and she said, "The simple things matter." And if you all should know who is making that comment, right?
Yes, and Marie said, very practical and informative program viewing from New York City. Hi, Marie. And
Yes,
Marie is known
yes.
to us.
Okay,
It
great.
is interesting that you made that point, brother Andy, because one of the things that is important, especially when the era of romance is concerned, is openness and vulnerability. And in our relationships, if our spouses can't see the real us, then romance is going to be a problem.
Hmm.
You know, we have to be willing to shed the mask.
Yeah.
You know, put on the mask for the world outside. But when it comes to the relationship, the marital relationship, we have to be willing to be open and very vulnerable. We have to be willing to to talk about our likes and our dislikes, talk about the things that uh that trouble us, that makes us feel like we are in our weak moments.
Yeah.
And learning these things about what keeps our relationships going. We have to create that safe space in our relationships, because do you know that many persons are married but there's no safe space in the marital relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Marriage, there has to be a safe space in your relationship. If you can't be vulnerable to your spouse, who else are you going to be vulnerable to?
Hmm. Wow.
That
Yeah.
important.
Yes, it is. It is.
It
Wow.
is. I think that's a very big point. You know, I don't know, brother Dexter want to put it up on the screen because it resonates because some husbands don't feel safe with their wives, and some wives don't feel safe with their husbands, and it's something that is definitely absolutely important in this conversation about cherishing and nourishing your spouse.
Yeah.
Because if we don't give each other the benefit of the doubt, if we can't let down your guard or remove the mask, how can you make space for growth,
Yeah.
for to strive. And we talk about last time we talked about nurturing.
Yeah.
You have to pull back all of the mask and all of the pretense, or just being vulnerable. And
Yeah.
I guess it's important for us to say it is not easy. It's not easy. That's what one of the points I want to definitely make is that although we're having a conversation here, and the words come off our lips quite easily, we have to acknowledge that it's not always easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. True.
It's not
Yes.
always easy. And that's
Yeah.
a spoke that I want, while we are sharing, we are making some suggestions, we are sharing points that have worked for us and that have worked for you and others. But it might not always be like that in other relationships. But the element is that there must be a willingness, there must be some deliberate action, there must be some intentionality and a desire.
And
Wow.
I just said,
Yes,
Raquel.
Brother Andy is itching to say something, it looks like.
You know, just before you go coming, just before brother Andy, this is where programs like these become important, because I can say without any reservation that one of the things that has kept Raquel and I going, even before we got married, Raquel and I went to several marriage seminars together before we got married. We were always reading on marriage and relationship stuff. Our house right now, we have books on top of books on different aspects of marriage and relationships.
And the
Our
conversation
conversations,
and the
the people that we are around, most of our friends are persons who are married for many years. And so yes, indeed, it is not an easy thing, and I don't think it was ever designed to be easy. But we can there the resources that we need to foster our relationships and have better marriages are out there. A lot of times is that we spend so many hours on other areas of our lives to improve other areas of our lives, but fail to put in the same time in terms of building our relationships and bettering our marriages.
Mm.
There's not a there's not a limit on the amount of good material and programs and seminars and workshops and people to talk to where relationships are concerned. The truth is that many times we don't really make use of it, brother
Hmm.
Andy.
Yes, that is correct. You were speaking about vulnerability and the fact that some husbands don't feel safe with their wives and vice versa. And immediately as you spoke about that, the word that came to my mind is trust. And
Yes. Ah.
one of the basic foundations of marriage, even before you say I do, understanding when you say I do, that's it, is to have that relationship of trust, a mutual relationship of trust. And I have learned from
Yes.
my personal experience that as the marriage progresses and as time goes along, that level of trust is supposed to grow. And that level of trust
Yeah, true.
depends on how husband and wife conduct themselves, carry about themselves, deal with certain matters that can affect the family, and other things that may come from the outside, the ecosystems that exist around, the neighbors, the friends, and so on. It is important to understand that sometimes, based on past experiences or based on the culture that your spouses grew up in, or based on the household that they would have come from, there may be things that they would have seen from their parents or members of their families that they are closely associated with that could affect their understanding of how they can really trust a spouse. And sometimes they did not take the time to address those issues. And as a result, when the marriage progresses, they are looking at you very closely. And so, even though they may look at you closely, it does not mean that you're under suspicion, but it just means that there are some
Hmm.
things in their mind that they are struggling with that needs to be sorted out. And so, I personally think that in order for that trust issue to be one that is resolved, husband and wife must have honest, open, vulnerable conversations and
Yes, true. Very true.
tell your spouse like it is. Don't hide anything.
Yeah.
Listen, it might hurt, you know. The truth might hurt, but it is better. Brother Paul, you're laughing. It is better.
Truth.
It is better that you address the truth before that situation becomes one. When something
Yeah.
happens and it bursts out, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, I'm living with a total stranger. And you need to
Hmm.
avoid that kind of situation from happening because nothing diminishes trust more than that. So it is critical for husband and wife to have these open, honest, and vulnerable, down to earth conversations. Just put it
Yes.
on the table, lay it out, deal with it as adults, deal with it objectively, deal with it responsibly, and understand it is just another step in the process of prolonging the ability of both of you to sustain the marriage.
Hmm. That's true. That's true. That's true. Mary said, I think unforgiveness in marriage also affects trust and other areas of marriage. And that is so true.
Absolutely
That
correct.
is
Yes.
so true. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big statement, Mary. Unforgiveness. And I have it right on my notes in front of me also because I you know, as you said, brother Andy, um, it is difficult to be romantic with somebody that you don't trust.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's virtually impossible to be romantic with somebody that you don't trust. It's impossible to be vulnerable to someone that you don't trust.
Yeah.
And even what Mary said about unforgiveness, that's one of the walls that we can put up in our relationships that we can't look past. And where there is unforgiveness, there's also not much romance going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I, that was as we go through our journey in marriage, one of the things that we have to realize is that life happens time. And as we grow in our relationships, there are going to be times when we are going to run afoul of the law with each other. Right? We are going to mess up and sometimes mess up big time also.
Yeah.
But that element of forgiveness has to be a part of what we hope to mature in with each other. And the truth is, it's it is so easy for us to want to be forgiven, but yet failing to exercise the same forgiveness towards somebody else.
Wow.
We have
Yeah.
we have no problem wanting forgiveness when we do things wrong, but oftentimes we don't extend the same level of forgiveness to our spouses who may have wronged us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that puts a damper on the relationship when we can't when we keep, one of the things we keep doing again is that we keep dredging up things from the past.
Right.
And that again is another thing that keeps romance from happening, when we keep reminding each other of all of the negative stuff and the bad that we have done. We don't
Right.
move past those things. Right?
Yes.
It's not easy,
Hmm.
but it is possible. And
It
I
is
have
possible.
counseled couples who, came into a session, and the level of unforgiveness that is there, and when they are able to work through it, I tell you, brother Andy and brother Dexter, the relationship blossoms into something wonderful.
Right. Right.
Definitely.
And
Yes,
it works.
indeed.
It works.
Yes.
That,
Yes.
that's what is at the heart of God, forgiveness.
That's right. You know, I think one of the things that we need to also look at, and I'm glad that you mentioned and Marie also mentioned unforgiveness. There's another aspect to that where, and I have seen this happen already, where you have a situation where families are wrong or friends of families are wrong, and they point out something about your spouse. And immediately, instead of coming to the defense of your spouse, you side with the family member or the friend. Boy, you don't know how much
Oh
trouble
Lord.
you you creating when you do that. And I personally learned that the hard way. It happened to me. I'm not afraid or ashamed to say it. I found myself in that situation once, and then when I carefully listened to what the other person was saying, it hit me. I said, wait a minute, you're talking about my wife. And if you're talking about my wife, Brother Paul and Sister Raquel and Brother Dexter, if you're talking about my wife, you're talking about me. So I have to put you in your place right away and let you know, hey, don't do that.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Stop.
true.
There's a
That's
limit.
right.
And so we have to understand that we must be there for our spouses, irregardless to what discomfort or disappointment we may have about something that they would have done or said. When that third person comes, we still must act together as one.
Yes. Yes. That's true. That's true. There's nothing more romantic than to have a spouse that is protecting your back.
That's right.
it,
That's right.
it's a wonderful feeling to have somebody that will always stand up for you when people are trying to get the better of you. That
Yep.
is an awesome gesture. Right?
Yes.
And I know persons really love that. So thanks Marie for that comment, because it's really
Wonderful.
really something that to we need to look at, the
Right.
whole aspect of unforgiveness. This has been a wonderful conversation. There's just so much more that we could say. Well, we have not even this is the second program we are doing talking about the subject, and we have not even started brushing the surface yet.
Hmm.
We could go another two or three discussions discussing just this topic alone.
Right.
We have not exhausted it, but what it is. you know, we really appreciate having this conversation tonight, living up your marriage, cherishing, nurturing, and nourishing your spouse. I think that a lot of stuff has come out tonight,
Yes.
and we really, really appreciate sharing this platform with Brother Andy and Brother Dexter.
I
And
appreciate you guys.
the beautiful lady beside me. I'm happy to have. being able to share with you. Thanks also to our audience out there, wherever you are, whether you're joining from Zimbabwe, Canada, the US, or somewhere in the Caribbean. We are really, really thankful. We are looking for Level Up Your Marriage to be a global thing. And we are confident, Brother Dexter and Brother Andy, that this program is going to be a global program
Yeah.
because we
Yeah.
believe in
It is indeed.
marriages, we believe in relationships, and we believe that these two were ordained by the Almighty God.
Wonderful.
It
Yes.
actually it already is.
Yes.
It already is a global program, and I think, but the last time I'm not sure who said it, but we dropped a lot of nuggets tonight. We want to thank Brother Andy for always giving us, sharing his wisdom. Brother Dexter sharing his wisdom. Yes, man. We really appreciate both of you so much, and the audience. Those online with us, those who place their comments in the chat.
Yeah.
Definitely seek your prayers. We
Yeah.
can't do this without God. You know, this
Wonderful.
ministry, this program, this effort is to give honor and glory to God. And so we ask that you continue to pray with us for its success. Pray with us for the success of the continued success of LBW Radio. And with God on our side, the only place that we can go is up and up and up.
Up and up and up.
Oh
All
yes.
Thank you
right.
for the
Oh
opportunity.
yes. Oh yes.
Until until next time, level up your marriage. We will have another healthy discussion. We thank you for your presence tonight. Brother Dexter, over to you.
I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for introducing Level Up Your Marriage to LBW Radio. The sessions thus far has just been awesome, enlightening, and some of the comments that were made, one said that this program is very practical, and I believe that's what the people need. That's what they want, and I just pray that God will continue to bless you guys with the wisdom, the knowledge, so that you can impart this knowledge onto others, especially young couples. Brother Andy, it was indeed a pleasure being with you all. As we say ayo, as we say good
Are
night,
you? Are
I'd just
you?
like to encourage all to
Ayo.
support our other programs. Tomorrow morning at 10:30, we're going to have Churches of Christ around the world with Brother Roy Grano.
Grano. Yeah.
Tomorrow, he will be taking us to the island of Curacao.
Curacao.
So, if you're interested in knowing about the history of the Church of Christ on the island of Curacao, please tune in tomorrow morning at 10:30 a.m. The following Saturday, Brother Roy Grano is going to take us to India, and we're going to
Wow.
learn about the church and the existence of the church in India. And there are quite a few other locations that he will be taking us. Don't forget, you can support our other programs such as Breaking Out of Depression with Brother Andy Charles here on Tuesday, every Tuesday from 6:30 p.m. And on Mondays, we have Iron Sharpeneth Iron from 8 p.m. This program is only aired on zeno.fm/lbw radio. So, once again, it was a pleasure being with you. For those of you who joined via Facebook and YouTube, we appreciate every one of you. And we just pray that you'll continue to support this effort. Have a good evening to all. Stay blessed and don't forget, stay connected to our Lord and Savior, Yahshua, the Son of Almighty God. Have a blessed evening to all.
Are you?
Thanks.
Ayo.
Ayo.